Everyone counted him out. Too slow, too quiet, too different. But here's the thing about being underestimated. If you believe what they say, you'll stay exactly where they put you. But if you don't, you might just rewrite the ending they wrote for you. There was a boy who sat in the back of every classroom. He never raised his hand, never ran the fastest, never got picked first, not for teams, not for group projects, not even for lunch tables. His name was Isaiah. He had thick glasses, a stutter that made his sentences trip over themselves, and an imagination so big it barely fit inside his spiral notebooks. But no one saw that. Not the teachers who rushed past his raised hand when he finally dared to raise it. Not the students who mocked the way he spoke before he could finish a sentence. Not even his own father, who once said quietly at dinner, "He's just not cut from the same cloth." But Isaiah heard it, and for a while he started to believe it. It was 6th grade when the class was told to write a short story. Everyone groaned except Isaiah. While the others scribbled half-hearted paragraphs, Isaiah poured himself into his pages. Aliens that spoke in poems. Castles that floated on regret. A janitor who turned back time with a mop. When he turned it in, his hands were shaking. Not from fear of failure, but from hope. He thought, maybe this time, they'll see me. A week later, the teacher stood at the front of the room. "I want to read you the best story I received," she said. Isaiah sat up straight, but she didn't read his. She read Jason's, a story about a football player who saves the day. Later, she handed Isaiah his paper with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Too imaginative," she said. "Try something more realistic next time. More realistic." As if his voice was too wild for this world. As if his mind had to shrink just to be accepted. That day, Isaiah stopped writing. He closed the notebook, pushed it under his bed, and stopped believing that different could be enough. Years passed. Isaiah didn't speak much, didn't dream much, did just enough to graduate. He took a job at a grocery store, the night shift, stocking shelves while the world slept. But some nights, when the aisles were quiet, he'd catch himself whispering stories to the cereal boxes. He didn't write them down, didn't even tell anyone. Until one evening, a boy about 7 years old wandered into the aisle while Isaiah was shelving crackers. The boy looked up at him with wide, curious eyes and said, "Are you a giant?" Isaiah chuckled. "Only at night," he said. The boy grinned. "What do you do when the lights go out?" Without thinking, Isaiah said, "I ride the peanut butter jars into the moonlight and battle expired soup cans." The boy laughed so hard he fell over. A few minutes later, the boy's mother came looking, breathless and worried. Isaiah apologized. But the boy just said, "Mom, this is the man who fights soup cans." The next night, the boy came back. And the next. Soon, other kids joined. Some came in with their parents during late-night grocery runs and stayed to hear Isaiah's whispered tales. They started calling him the Midnight Storyteller. Word spread. One day, a young woman from a local nonprofit walked up and said, "You should write these down. Kids like mine need this." Isaiah blinked. He hadn't touched a notebook in over a decade. But that night, he went home, pulled out the dusty spiral from under his bed, and began to write again. 5 years later, Isaiah's first children's book hit shelves. It wasn't flashy. It didn't top bestseller lists overnight. But one Amazon review changed everything. It read, "My son stutters. He thought heroes had to be loud, until he read this book." More books followed. More stories. More kids who saw themselves not as broken, but as brilliant in ways the world didn't always understand. Today, Isaiah visits schools where kids sit in the back and stay quiet. He walks up to them, smiles, and says, I know what it feels like when they count you out. But listen closely. You're still in the game. Because here's the truth. The world will try to box you in, to shrink you, to mute you. They'll count you out before you even begin. But you don't have to believe them. You don't have to wait for permission. Because maybe being counted out is the exact reason you'll count yourself in. If you've ever been underestimated, if you've ever been told you're not smart enough, loud enough, fast enough, let this be your reminder. You're still writing your story, and they don't get to write the ending. Drop a message, "I'm still in the game," in the comments if this spoke to you. Don't forget to subscribe for more real stories that remind you of your power. Share this with someone who's been doubted and might need to hear this today.